Well. It's been a pretty good weekend. With Manchester City and Liverpool dropping points, Arsenal are finally back top of the league. Finally beating our Emirates bogey team Brighton for the first time in 3 years. But there's one thing I want to say about this game. I told you so. For literal months, I have been sitting here defending Kai Havertz for Arsenal, and now he's got a few goals in a month, everyone is starting to agree. But what has the change actually been? First of all, I want to say I'm very happy for Kai Havertz. He seems like a proper down-to-earth guy, and I really wanted to support him the whole time he was at Arsenal. There's no doubt about it, he's definitely a confidence player, and he's playing a lot better since he's been a lot more confident in the team and actually sort of solidified his left centre mid role. This uptick in form and confidence saw him get player of the month for Arsenal in November, and he's continued that form in December, being brilliant at the start and being brilliant in every game. And with another goal against Brighton, taking his Premier League tally up to 4 this season and his all competitions tally to 5, the outer world are really starting to respect him, and he is no longer the problem at Arsenal. Straight away, I'm going to say I'm not really surprised. Havertz has been brilliant for Arsenal pretty much since he signed, but there's been definitely some issues with his game. I think Arteta's been trying to play him in a new role, quite a specific role to him that he's never really used to and played in before, and no one ever has. The role involves him being on that left side of the pitch trying to help the ball progression, but he doesn't necessarily get on the ball too much. He sort of just wants to be off the ball, moving runners off. And from goal kicks and at the end of games, he is being used for his height, often being put up the top of the pitch next to Jesus for a goal kick so he can win the headers and duels in the air, while also having a specific role where he has to run into the box deep and late to even try and get a head back post or try and create some runners to move in the front post, giving space to other players in the box. Now, I've never seen anyone do this role before because it's very specific to Havertz himself, and when Xhaka was at the team last year, he had a very specific role in that team, but was often different as he was a lot better long passer, and you aren't really going to put him in there for crosses. He weren't very good in the air. And Havertz was always quite a key part of Arteta's tactics this year. Now, people might disagree about the tactics not being necessarily as good as last year, but Arsenal have been a lot more solid than last year and actually deserve to be where they are. Arsenal last year were very good going forward, but they definitely had made some mistakes in defence, and they didn't have much pressure in some games, often backs against the wall sort of stuff, but that is not really the thing anymore. Arsenal often dominate games and usually create loads of chances. It's just putting them the way it's been a bit of an issue this year, but they've still scored a lot of goals because of the sheer amount of chances they've created. And overall, I've been very impressed with Arsenal's control, yet they have been let down by some of the finishing, even against Brighton, where they created so many chances and failed to put them away till near the end, but in the end they did get the job done, which, you know, they haven't every game. And Havertz's role hasn't just started to work. He was actually getting better every single week, doing better duels, helping Arsenal get on the pitch with the aerial side and getting up the pitch quicker with long balls. He helps Arsenal be a lot less fluid in possession, and this is actually a good thing because sometimes Liverpool are always trying to look for the same things with their fluid movement. Sometimes Arsenal are not afraid to just give up on all that and boot the ball forward to the tall men and or do a cross straight to his head, and that this does work. But Havertz has impressed me a lot recently because he showed a lot more desire than he did before. He seems much more physical and a lot more in the games, and even against Aston Villa, I do like him beefing Martinez, even though you could say it could be a bad part of him. And he's given a lot of fight, a lot of heart to keep going for Arsenal, and he's done really well to keep at it every single game when a lot of people were doubting him. And I've said since the start, I've done numerous videos of talking about how good he is for this team, even if he isn't playing well. It's a weird thing, but he does help the system so much, and he helps Arsenal get up the pitch a lot more than you would think. And Arsenal have actually scored a lot of goals directly from Havertz's play that you won't necessarily see. And for example, when Arsenal equalised against Chelsea, and it was through a Trossard goal, we scored that because Ryan booted the ball long and Havertz headed it down, winning the aerial duel. Eventually, the ball was shifted out to Saka, who did the cross to Trossard, and we equalised. And that was just from booting the ball up the pitch, no fancy stuff. And recently against Luton, when our second goal went in and Jesus scored that header, Havertz does a brilliant run in the front post to draw 2 defenders away. This leaves Jesus open because they know Havertz is an aerial threat and they need to get on him. And slowly, as the weeks have been progressing, you've been seeing him making these runs a lot better. Like, he's obviously supposed to use runs at the start, but we're starting to get the ball into him more, and this is because we've changed how our midfield is set up. So before, Havertz had to actually help with the progression and try to get the ball out to that left side and try and keep hold of the ball a lot, and this is not really what Havertz is known for. He's not really a good progressor from the midfield, even though he is very good for forwards. And Arteta has identified this and made him go a bit more forward, where he can still do some big tackles and interceptions, but often it's not really his job, and his job is to push the defenders and start helping press with Jesus. And this is so much more natural for him because he understands how to be a striker, and he's might not have the best finishing, but he understands where to stand and where to press defenders and when to get into the box. And just having that awareness in there is very vital. And often near the end of the games, we have Havertz up the side of the pitch for an option to get out. If we're getting pressed, if the other team are pushing for a goal, often Havertz will stay away so we can boot the ball long to him, or he'll be on the last defender looking for a run. This is good because this is like the goal against Brighton. If Eddie or Trossard go and make that ball progression in the midfield and make a run with it, then they can find Havertz, who's that predator mandatory striker as much as he doesn't have the best finishing, and sometimes he will score them. And there's no doubt about it, Havertz is playing a different forward/midfield sort of hybrid role. If you look at his stats for a forward, they look very weird. He doesn't create much, but he gets a lot of passes and completions. Yet if you look for a midfielder, the completions are bad and he's creating a lot of chances. So he's in between that sort of place, more like a secondary striker. And this has all been able to change because instead of Rice being a pink pivot by himself and sort of having to do everything, what they have done is they've actually put Odegaard back with him, so it's a double pivot so they can get more progression there. This is because they were using that inverted system where Zinchenko would come in and help the team, and they still do sometimes, but sometimes they've been using a traditional left back and having double pivot with Odegaard and Rice. This means that often they will help each other passing the ball, being in close proximity. They will also do most of the tackles, most of the interceptions, win the ball back and progress the ball up the pitch. Odegaard will also try and create most chances as possible, while Havertz can just stay on them defenders, giving them a torrid time and sitting in the box waiting for the ball. And often with the quick movements of someone like Martinelli waiting as well on a one-on-one and Saka coming in deeper, it also gives Arsenal a lot more different fluid movements around that midfield, and it's a lot harder to track. And in the recent games, Havertz has really got a connection with Jesus. They sort of understand when each other are going to go up for the ball and head it on and where to stand, and they understand when to track runners and when to move people for the other player. This has helped see both of their performances and goal scoring improve a lot recently, and they're both getting the benefits for it, and I think them two work together brilliantly up front. And for example of Havertz's defensive work getting better, because he's trying to push up a lot further in the pitch, he's actually doing a lot more defensive work. He's getting 4 recoveries, 4 defensive actions and 2 interceptions today against Brighton, which is pretty good. He helps with Arsenal's aggressive nature of trying to win the ball back straight away, and against Brighton they just suffocated them in with all the players pressing and moving together, which is what you want from a working team. And although the Arsenal team is still struggling to put the ball in the back of nets to a certain extent as to the amount they are creating, against Brighton you really got to see the full front line playing well, with Odegaard having 5 shots, Jesus, Martinelli, Havertz and Saka all having 4. This is exactly what you want. You want your best players having as most shots as possible, and I know everyone's been talking about Martinelli only getting 2 a game when he had 4 and had a lot more XA today, getting lots of chances to get assists. This is encouraging, and it's proving that the Havertz experiment in midfield is slowly working, and I think he's actually been amazing in the role he'd been given at the start, even though it's very hard for him to do when he joined. I've been saying for months, I've done so many videos and shorts about how I think Havertz is really good, and I've been told not to get overexcited. There is some games he might still have off, but I still think overall he's been amazing the whole time, and I do think finally, because he's scoring some goals, people are starting to notice him, even though he's been doing very good midfield work the whole time. And it does help that his form has drastically improved since Odegaard's form has as well. I did a video about Odegaard's form not being very good, and now he's suddenly been really good the last month, being one of Arsenal's best players and creating around 5 to 6 chances a game. If Arsenal can keep this up, then who knows what can happen this season. There's a lot going for them going forward slowly, and defensively they're still pretty good. They've conceded the least amount of goals in the league with Liverpool, who they play next week. Personally, I think Havertz is one of my favourite players for the club, and I'm so happy he's succeeding. Let me know what you think in the comments of Havertz, and let me know what you think about the Brighton win and Arsenal's chances to win the league. If you want to see my video where I talk about if we should sell or keep Emma Smith Rowe, please go and watch that. And that's it. Thank you for watching.